Thank you, Ma'am Kathy. This lecture or this training will be recorded for the benefit of everyone, since after which we'll be sending you a copy together with your certificate and acknowledgement receipt. How do we suppose to begin our research paper? This and many others will be discussed in today's event. But first, let's all pray. To all my fellow Catholics, in the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. Lord God, we glorify your holy name. We thank you for all the blessings that you've been giving us through times, our good health, happy family, and great opportunities. Today, we send to you our prayers to allow us to embrace new ideas and fill our minds with experience and thoughts. We likewise humbly ask for your provident guidance as we battle for our lives against this pandemic. Bless this day, our trainer, so with our participants across the archipelago, that together we shall learn the ropes of writing chapter 1 of your research paper. All these things we pray in Jesus' name. Amen. Saint Jude Tadeus and Our Lady of Manawag, pray for us. Ladies and gentlemen, the Philippine National Anthem.
Mga kababayan, ang pambansang awit ng Pilipinas.
And sorry, I'm on a mute. The truth is, no one is really ordinary, that everyone deserves a standing ovation in their lives. Our friends do, our teachers do, our siblings do. Of course, our fathers do, but most especially our mothers who never gave up on us. Like in the movie Wonder, today we celebrate two things: having the opportunity to learn from each other and a Mother's Day. So to all the mothers here today in all forms, Happy Mother's Day po. And to your mothers, Happy Mother's Day po. Good morning everyone and welcome to Powerhouse Scholastic Center. Those regular students, they knew me already. To the new faces, I'm Mark Castro and I'll be your host for today. On behalf of PSC, I welcome you all to our humble online training center. PSC stands for Powerhouse Scholastic Center. It is an online platform dedicated to professional advancement training, review sessions, and certificate courses. It employs instructors, review specialists, and trainers who are adept in their fields of specialization. PSC, although holds courses online, still maintains an office in the heart of Quezon City. With its determined founding partners, Powerhouse is committed to deliver quality instruction across the globe in the digital world. Malakpak pa tayo. At this point, allow me to welcome all participants from the different walks of life and who hail from the different islands of the archipelago. May I request those who are from NCR, please raise your hand. We have here from Manila, Taguig. Ayan. Then, how about Luzon participants? Because we have a lot. How about those participants from Visayas? Ayan. Si ma'am. How about our dear participants from Mindanao? Ayun, si ma'am. Because we have participants coming from Iloilo, Manila, Cavite, Quirino Province, Cebu, Lapu-Lapu City, Davao City, Bulacan, Quezon, La Union, Dagupan, Kababayan, Oriental Mindoro, Nueva Ecija, si Sir JP to. Memorize na eh. Legazpi City, Taguig, yung Dagupan si Ma'am Yasmin yata. Taguig si Sir Ronel. Puerto Princesa, Zambales, Sir Lawrence. Cotabato, Ilocos, yon si Sir Gerard. And of course, our international student from Cambodia. Nag-iisa siya today, si Sir Ram. I hope Sir Ram is already here. He is currently studying from the National University of Management straight from Cambodia. Ayun. I would like to personally welcome back our regular students. Ayan. Every Sunday we see each other in the center. Sister Ram, si Ma'am Rose Nalin was here last week if I'm not mistaken. Si Ma'am Virginia, nandito na, she's back. Ma'am Christine, si Ma'am Farin May, she's back. Welcome back, Ma'am Farin May. Si Ma'am Grichel also, she's back to the center. Si Ma'am Shannon Palek is here. Nagbabalik. Ma'am Elsie, I hope you can hear me. Ma'am Emily, welcome back, Ma'am Emily. Yung tanong mo about action research, Ma'am Emily, hindi pa kita nabalikan. Although I was already informed by our marketing officer. I need to get back to you. Next. Ma'am
Thank
Yasmin.
you, sir.
Okay po. Maraming salamat, Ma'am Emily. Ma'am Yasmin, hope to see you back. Although mag-hi lang daw siya. Ma'am Gloria, I think Ma'am Gloria was also here last week. Sir JP, of course, regular student. Malapit na matapos si Sir JP. Sir Ronel. Ma'am Catherine, I think she attended our training also already. Of course, Sir Lawrence Garcia. Ano na yan? Parang malapit na silang matapos ni Ma'am Yasmin in full circle. And of course, si Sir Gerard. So to our new students, welcome to Powerhouse po. Sila Ma'am Needs, Ma'am Rina, Ma'am Mary Jane, Sir Mark, Ma'am Valerie, Sir Ross, then Miss Jean, Miss Restanora or Mr. Sorry. Then Sir Melchor. Ay, si Ma'am Aura pala. She was here last week. And hopefully, I didn't miss any name. And welcome po to our new students. Welcome to our humble center. Hopefully, magkikita na rin po tayo every Sunday. Like, ayun, Miss Rastanora. Ayun. Si Ma'am yata yung Puerto Princesa. Ayun. Welcome po. Hopefully, you will also make it a habit every Sunday to attend our refresher course on research writing. We're planning to make this as an institutionalized refresher course already after this cycle. Para hindi na tayo nagre-register every week. So if you want to attend to all the trainings for research, you can pay already at once. Tapos every week na lang magkikita-kita tayo except for the new students. Because after this lecture, today is a refresher course of chapter 1. We advised you last night or yesterday, if you have a draft of your chapter 1, Sir Ram's already here, so that as the lecture progresses, you can already check on your chapter 1 what needs to be improved. And then after Dr. Fabella's lecture will give you time to ask questions. And then you might ask what will happen to our chapter 1 after. We'll follow up with your chapter 2 next week. That would be compiling review of related literature. So, yan. So, sana po meron na kayong reading kahit draft lang na chapter 1 so that you can already check what needs to be adjusted as Dr. Fabella walks us through the review session on writing our dreadful chapter 1. Because as they say, it's very hard to start anything. Tama po ba? It's very difficult to start anything. So yes, we completed our research subject already. I know that. Thesis writing 1, seminar. Pero pag nakaharap na tayo sa laptop, parang we are always on a tabula rasa state. Blank slate palagi. We don't know how to start. We don't know what word should we begin. I was once in your shoes. Ayun. Tinigil ko na kasi nakakasira ng pagkakaibigan. They joke lang po. Actually, I'm very interested with Dr. Fabella's lecture today because parang 6 years na ako nagsusulat ng chapter 1, di pa ako matapos-tapos. So, those who can relate, today, Dr. Fabella would back us up. So, nakasalalay sa kanya yung kinabukasan natin. Yan. So, after ng lecture na to, matapang na tayong humarap sa chapter 1 because we are already armed with all the bullets on fire. Tama po ba? Ayan. So, laban lang. Matatapos din tayo. Diba? Hanggat available ang leave of absence, sige lang, file ng file. Pero sana after nag-lecture ni Dr. Fabella today, we are already brave enough to face it because whether we like it or not, we have really to face thesis writing if we really wanted to finish our graduate studies. Coming from me, 2004 pa yata ako nag-start. Anong year na po ngayon? Yung advisor ko, taon-taon na lang nagre-remind kailan ako magsusulat. So, lapit na akong pa-refresher. Kasi, di ba may lapse yung comprehensive test. Buti na lang pandemic. I have escaped. Anyway, so much with press releases. Part of PIS's vision is to hold professional advancement training sessions that serve as venue for interaction amongst leaders, students, and practitioners of different fields. Today, we'll give you another slice of that via research writing series, Writing Chapter 1. And it's time to meet our resource speaker or trainer or our in-house lecturer. Our resource speaker or lecturer is a well-decorated, internationally acclaimed researcher whose works have been published here and abroad. Sir Lawrence, good morning. Dito na siya, si Ma'am Aura. He is currently the Dean of the College of Arts and Sciences and Research Director of Mary the Queen College, Commonwealth Avenue, Diliman, Quezon City. His excellent and relevant works made him chosen by the Asia Pacific Excellence Award as the most outstanding Filipino writer in 2017. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Powerhouse Scholastic Center's pride, Dr. Frederick Edward T. Fabella.
Okay, thank you very much, Sir Mark. Kasama na naman tayo ngayong Sunday. So it's very nice to see all of you. Parang dumarami yata tayo every Sunday. So I'm very happy to see that, no? Galing-galing ni Sir Mark. Galing-galing niya maghanap ng mga attend ng ating mga webinars and trainings. Ayan. Okay, sige. So, napakarami na natin. So, dati kasi ang ginagawa ko, iniisa-isa ko pang batiin lahat. Ngayon, parang hindi ko na kayang batiin lahat isa-isa. I'm sure you're all eager to start. So, sisimulan na po natin. Okay, so good morning ulit and welcome to Powerhouse. So, let me just share my PowerPoint presentation. Ayan. Okay, so I hope you can see it already. Again, due to the limitations of technology and alam naman natin lagi nagkakaproblema, kindly let me know. Baka hindi umaandar yung slides or baka mawala yung boses ko. No? So, please let me know. No? Ayan. Okay, para baka kasi salita ako ng salita dito, wala na pala kayo naririnig or hindi umaandar yung slide. Okay, so let's begin. So, chapter 1, starting it right. Ayan, sabi nga ni Sir Mark, napakahirap simulan, no? Napakahirap simulan. The first step is always the most difficult. Okay po, so let's try to address that concern by trying to eliminate kung ano man yung mga obstacles. Kasi minsan mga mental obstacles po natin, yun yung hadlang. So we will try to address that po. Okay, so ayan. So let me just start. Okay, so paano ba nagsisimula ang research? Research begins with you. Kayo po. Kayo po ang bida. Minsan kasi nakafocus tayo sa topic. No, we should focus on ourselves. Bakit po? Kasi the topic comes from you. Kayo po yung magde-decide kung ano po yung research na gusto nyo gawin. Di ba po? Kaya kayo po yung bida dyan. You are actually putting yourself in the research. You are your research. No? So sometimes kasi we see ourselves as apart, no? Separate and apart from the research. No? That's you. You're putting your life, your time, your effort into it. And it's also your choice kung ano yung pag-aaralan nyo po. Kaya kayo po yung bida dyan. No? Okay. So, para po mas maintindihan natin kung bakit kayo po ang bida, no? Tayo, you, ang bida. No? We have to consider kung ano po ba yung mga factors when we are choosing the topic. No? Kasi sabi nga doon sa thought bubble kanina, kayo po ang mamimili. Pero hindi natin masyado na pag-iisipan talaga kung ano yung mga factors that come into the decision making, the choice that we make. No? So let's try to see ano po ba yung mga factors na yan. So isa-isahin po natin and I hope you can also reflect on these factors one by one. Ano? Yan. So syempre po, it has something to do with your field. Mahirap mag-research ng bagay na wala naman tayo. It's not our expertise. No, it's not our field. No. Minsan sa mga masteral students ko po, naliligaw sila kung ano yung gusto nilang pag-aralan. No, for example, I have students, there are masteral students who are taking up, syempre, masters in education. Iba nagme-major in guidance and counseling. Pero ang naging topic nila is how to improve the grades of their students. Sabi ko, alam nyo, hindi yata pang guidance and counseling yan. Parang realm ng teacher yan. Hindi yan tatanggapin. Ay, oo nga, no? Kasi di ba anong kinalaman ni guidance counselor sa grades ng estudyante? Wala. Kaya that becomes a problem, no? Ganda-ganda ng topic mo, pinagandaan mo, tapos anong connect sa field mo? Yan. Parang yung mga senior high school students naman, ano, pag namimili sila ng topic, ganda-ganda ng topic, and then ang una kong tanong sa kanila, ano yung strand mo? Kasi yung topic pa nila, walang kinalaman sa strand nila. So, hindi pwede yan. No? You have to choose a topic based on your strand. Okay, so field. Ano po ba ang mga bagay na pwede niyong pag-aralan sa field niyo? Kasi more often than not, no, your panel, your proposal defense panel, or kung sino man yung mag-approve ng topic ninyo, yun ang unang iisipin eh. Pang field mo ba yan? Pang major mo ba yan? Baka naman hindi. No? No? Baka mamaya mag-final defense ka, sabihin sa'yo, hindi yan angkop sa field mo, so patay tayo dyan. Okay? So this is the first thing that you have to think about. Is it related to my field? Okay? Another factor, ano pa ang interest mo? Once you have already narrowed down the topics, no, pang field mo talaga, sure ka na field mo yan. Ano po? Ano naman ang interest niyo? Kasi mas madali pong i-research ay isang bagay kapag interesado ka doon. That's why I always inspire researchers with curiosity. Saan po ba kayo curious? What are you curious about? What do you want to discover? Kasi mga researches ko po na ginagawa ko kusa, I always do it on the basis of my own curiosity. I'm curious to find out ano ba ang kalalabasan. And once I discover the answer to my question through research, I can claim that that is my own. Ako lang, akin lang yan. Discovery ko yan. Ano po? Kaya maganda po talaga gumagawa ng research kasi that's your discovery. Yung mga susunod na research na related sa inyo, ginaya ka na lang. Di ba po? Parang ganun yung nangyayari, no? You are now the related literature of the following, of the subsequent researches that will be done on that particular topic. Pero first and foremost, simula po tayo sa ano po ba ang interest natin. Ano yung gusto nating pag-aralan? Okay? So, mas madali po kasi pag-aralan ng bagay na gusto nating pag-aralan. Okay. Ano pa po? Yan. Issues I have observed. Now, it's more compelling to have your topic approved if it is an actual issue that you have observed personally. Nakita mo siya as a potential problem, as a concern na gusto mong i-address. Ano po? Kasi mahirap mag-imagine na lang, ano kaya ang ganda research? Ito magandang topic to. And then the panel will ask you, paano mo naisip tayo? Wala, naisip ko lang. Kailangan kasi, bakit kailangan something that you have actually observed? Kasi all research must have a practical application. Kailangan may gamit. Kailangan magagamit. Kung in-imagine mo lang yung topic mo, imaginary din yung gamit. Di ba? Parang, okay, so you discovered this and that, pero ano ngayon yung gamit ng results mo? Kasi na-imagine mo lang eh. So, mas maganda po talaga na the topic that you choose is something that you've actually observed and mas madali mo i-defend yun before the proposal panel, the title defense panel. No? Kasi po, nakita ko po na ganito, ganyan, ganon. And this could be a potential problem. Or maybe it's an actual problem that's already happening. Ano po? So, maganda po yan. Personal ninyo nakita, na-experience, or nakita nyong na-experience ng iba. Ayan, okay po. So, let's see. Another factor, institutional preferences. Now, minsan ito yung naging problema ng isang graduate school student. Ang ganda ng topic niya. Pero, ayaw ng school niya. Kasi ang dami na daw gumawa noon. No? Nalulunod na daw sila sa ganong topic. So, we have to also consider their institutional preferences. Ano yung topic sa gusto nila? Ako, I have a personal experience with that, no? When I was doing my doctorate, yung una kong topic, na para sa akin ay napakaganda. Yung pala meron sila gusto ipa-research sa akin. Sabi ko, sige, yung pala gusto ipa-research sa akin. Sabi ko, sana hindi nila ako proposal defense natin. Tinanong ko lang, ano ba gusto yung i-research ko? Eh, nakakabigla kasi magde-defend ka before 2 vice presidents and 3 deans ng buong eskwelahan. So, syempre, di ba, nakaka-intimidate po yan. Nakaharap mo 2 vice president, 3 dean. And then, yun pala yung gusto nila ng topic. So, I'm sharing it from my personal experience. Yun pala yung gusto nila because it's a new trend, it's a new topic, and gusto nilang ma-publish. Kaya nung natapos ko yung dissertation ko, alam mo, nakakatuwa kasi yung mga kaklase ko, nakasabay ko, na nag-doctorate. It took them 7 years to finish their doctorate. I was in a hurry, so I finished it in 3. Sabi ko, nagmamadali ako eh. Ayan. So sabi ko, and then nagulat na lang ako, hindi ko alam na balak pa na lang i-publish yung aking dissertation. So pag ginugoogle ko yung dissertation, ito pala, nakapublish pala. No, it's part of the journal of the school. Hindi lahat napapublish eh. No, hindi lahat ng dissertation, lahat ng masteral thesis pinapublish ng institutional journal, pero I was very happy that they included mine. Kaya ayun. Okay, so consider that also. Be open, no, when you are trying to convince your panel about the topic. No, be open to their suggestions. Kasi pag ayaw nila yung topic mo talaga, wala ka lang magagawa eh. Okay, so okay, all right. Practical limitations, no? Sometimes nakakalimutan natin, gusto natin gawin to, gusto natin gawin yan. Pero kaya mo ba? Kaya mo bang puntahan? No? Can you spend that much time doing that research? Kaya yun nga, may mga kaklase ako na inabot ng 7 years. They were doing their dissertation for 5 years. No? Kaya sabi ko kasi they did not consider their practical limitations. They engaged in a very ambitious, maganda maging ambitious, pero kaya mo ba? No, kung hindi mo kaya, baka gusto mo na matapos agad. Baka hindi maganda na you try to have an impressive and ambitious topic tapos hindi mo naman pala kaya. Ang pagsusulat po ng research ay magastos. Yan, magastos po yan. No? Kaya it's one of the limitations. No? Time, gastos, effort that it takes, no, people that will that you will need help from. No, what if they're not available? Your research instrument, no? Kung hingi ka ng tulong ng statistician, ng mga validators, ano, ang dami kailangan to produce just your research, right? Alam niyo po 'yon. Kaya ako, ang sinasabi ko lagi, huwag niyo isipin lahat. One step at a time lang. No? Ilatag mo lang. Ito, first step. Kaya maganda yung Gantt chart. Alam niyo yung GANTT chart. No? Nakalatag na doon step by step. Ano yung dapat matapos in this time frame, this month, next month, and the next month, and the next month. Bigyan mo sarili mo ng timetable para pero realistic naman, ano? Masyadong pressure. Every week kailangan meron ka natatapos. Di ba po? So, nakakatulong po 'yon. Set a timetable for yourself na doable, no? Smart. Ayan. Okay po. Practical limitations, nakakalimutan po natin yan minsan. And my understanding of the research process, which is what we are trying to remedy right now. No? Minsan, we don't want to do a particular research because we don't know how. Ayoko mag-qualitative, hindi ko naiintindihan yan. Hindi ko alam yung thematic analysis, so paano ko gagawin yan? Magka-quanti na lang ako. No, may mga ganon. No? Madalas, ang default na gusto ng graduate student is mag-quanti. Eh what if your institution prefers quali na? Ayan, papasok na naman yung institutional preference. So all of these interact with one another in the finalization of your topic po. Lahat itong factors, all 6 factors that I've discussed so far, they will come into play when you're deciding with finality the topic. No? Kaya hindi pwede basta-basta na lang kahit anong topic. No? Mahirap po yun. I never give that advice na, kahit anong topic, bahala ka na. No? Tapos mare-reject, syempre kawawa naman siya. Kasi nag-invest na siya ng time, effort, in that particular proposal. Siyempre, gagawa ka ng chapter 1 to 3 just for a research proposal. Tapos, dahil hindi niya na-consider itong 6 na to, patay. Kaya, understanding of the research process. For example, quali, you want to do triangulation, parang hindi ko yata kaya, wag na lang. So, mga ganun eh. So, you need to have an understanding of what you want to do. No? Your topic will sometimes be dependent on the research process, the research design that you're going to employ. Kaya what we're trying to remedy dito po sa ating research writing series is to increase our knowledge of the research process. Para mas marami po tayong options. Hindi po tayo nakatali sa, ito lang ang alam ko eh. So ito lang yung kaya kong gawin. Kaya paano kung ayaw ng school na yun yung gawin mo? Yun, nagkakaproblema doon. So, nagiging stumbling block ng mga, marami po akong kilalang graduate students who stopped. Pagdating na sa thesis writing, sa research writing, dissertation writing, ayaw na. Kasi hindi nila alam paano gawin. And they were too afraid to find out. No? They did not want to even pursue it. Kaya hanggang doon na lang sila. And that's sad. Sayang. Okay, so yun, so ganun po, no? When you want to do something, no? Depende po yan kasi sa passion ninyo. So ako po, when I was taking up my masteral, no? I finished it in 1.5 years. Kasi madali din ako nun eh. Sabi ko, kaya ko to 1.5 years. So I think I'm the record holder sa school namin, no? For the fastest masteral. Usually 2 to 3 years po yan eh. Pero I wanted to finish in 1.5 years. Ganun din sa doctorate. I wanted to finish it in 3 years instead of 7 years na. 5 years na they usually take. Yeah, ayun. So if you really want, if you have a goal talaga, kaya naman eh. You just have to want it so badly that you will do everything to know how it's done and how it's done properly. No? Alamin po natin lahat ito. And then once we have our topic, that's when we start. Kasi without the topic, what do you start? No? Okay po. So, ayan. So, let's continue. Once there is a general idea of a topic, meron ka ng general idea, this is an interesting topic. No? Hindi mo pa naiisip yung research question, huwag niyo muna problemahin yun. Kasi matagal. Yung research, kasi minsan ito yung problema. No? Yung gusto mo agad ng research question. Gusto mo agad ng statement of the problem. That becomes your problem. When you jump kagad to the statement of the problem, no, hindi mo na. Hindi mo na, may proseso yan. Dahan-dahan, hinay-hinay lang. No? Kahit yung statement of the problem, mahirap i-formulate po yan. No? Pag hindi po kayo sanay, ang hirap po talaga. No? Kaya, eto muna ang tanong natin. Is the phenomenon that you want to research measurable? Pwede ba natin sukatin? What do you mean by measurable? Is it quantifiable? Can it be represented by numbers? Is there a way to measure it? No? So this is the first question that you ask once you have a general idea. So meron tayong proseso, ano po? We don't jump. Huwag muna tayo mag-jump kasi doon po nahihirapan yung iba. Nag-jump agad sila. Let's write chapter 1 agad. Wala ka pang topic. No? And you don't even know if what you want to study is measurable. So sige, eto muna. Measurable ba siya? Quantifiable ba siya? If it is quantifiable, you go quantitative. That's ganun lang yon. But if it's not, you go qualitative. Ano po? Diyan na naman nalilito ang marami. Paano ko malalaman kung quantitative or qualitative? Iba kasi nag-jump agad, magka-quali ako. Kasi yung pala yung topic niya, hindi pang quali. May ganun ako na-encounter, nagde-defend siya. Yung mga tanong niyo po pang quanti, pero ang ginamit niyo quali, hindi nangyari ngayon siya sa defense. No? Kasi nakita namin lahat as a panel doon sa ginawa niya. Hindi po pang quali itong research questions niyo eh. No, you have to overhaul. Sometimes the researcher is not properly guided. Kaya kapag kayo po ay may chance no, sa institution where you are studying, pili kayo ng advisor na alam niya yung gagawin. Hindi yung, no? Isa kasi sa sobrang busy ng mga professors, na marami kang pagpipiling advisor. Gusto mo siya. Minsan ganito yung problema. Gusto ko siya. Ang galing-galing niya. Wala naman siyang time. So, wala siyang time, natutukan ka. No? Sige, okay na yan. Okay na yan. Okay na yan. Kasi marami siyang ibang ginagawa. Siya siyang racket. No? Kaya nagiging problema minsan. It becomes the problem. The problem sometimes arises from your choice of advisor. Na hindi ko alam kung anong ginagawa sa mga schools where you're studying. No? May choice ka ba? O ina-assign sa'yo? No, randomly, kasi minsan may mga schools na gano'n, gusto nila. O patas ang mga professors dito, kayo mga doktor, no, tigtatatlo kayo na advisee kasi no, 10 sila or 12 sila nagde-defense, magde-defense. So para fair, no, walang samaan ng loob yung mga doktor. Yung minsan gano'n eh, wala kang choice sa advisor na makukuha mo. Kaya sometimes you need, aside from your advisor who's very busy, you need someone who's also helpful enough to guide you. No? So, minsan, no, patanong-tanong ka lang dyan, ganyan, doon sa secondary consultant mo. Minsan pwede yan. No? But if your advisor is really focused on you, minsan kasi may mga advisors who are very invested in their thesis advisee. Ako po, ganun po ako. When I have an advisee, I'm very invested in the advisee. Sinasabi ko lagi sa kanya, alam mo ang goal ko, hindi sa pinapahirapan kita, ang goal ko makapasa ka sa final defense. That's my only goal. That's what I tell my advisee. No? Hindi sa kinokontra ko yung mga gusto mo or pinapabago ko lagi yung ginagawa mo. Pero alam nyo, I've been a panelist for many years. Marami na kami binagsak. And ayokong mangyari sa iyo yung pinaulit. Papapaulit sa iyo yung thesis mo. I don't want that kasi ang sakit sa akin. Sakit sa akin pag yung advice ko natapat sa striktong panel and yung kanyang thesis eh, dahil gusto niya mapadali buhay niya, ganun-ganun lang yung thesis niya, pinaulit sa kanya, di yan sakit din sa akin. So para I feel like a failure. Sana pala I was demanding on that person. Ano po? So anyway, konting kwento lang kasi kasama po yan sa proseso. Your advisor is your partner. But if your advisor has no time for you, oh no. Oh no. Laking problema po. Ayan. So, may mga tinutulungan din po ako mga doctoral students in other institutions. Kasi yung advisor nila, I don't know kung bakit kinuha niya advisor yung presidente ng eskwela. Eh, talaga walang time yun sa kanya. So ngayon, sabi niya, pwede bang ikaw na lang ang mag-advise sa akin? Oo, sige, pero ito ang disclaimer ko ha. Hindi ko alam ang standards ng school mo. No? You have to, siguro ang gawin mo, kumuha ka ng example ng dissertation sa school mo para makita ko so I can see ano yung standards nila. Kasi iba-iba depende sa school eh. So disclaimer po ito, no? Whatever I share with you, this is just in general, no? Hindi natin pwede i-impose dun sa eskwelahan kung saan po kayo nag-masteral yung ating natutunan sa webinar na ito. Ay sabi dun sa webinar, dapat ganito. Baya, lalo kayo mayari pag gano'n. Ano? You have to be very malleable when you're in front of the panel. Ano po? The panel is God. Yan. No? Pangit pakinggan pero sila yung mga Diyos. They are the deities that you must please. Kaya mahirap talaga. Okay po. So kung nasagot na po natin itong katanungan na to, is it measurable? You go quanti. So we will talk about quantitative muna. Yan, no? The quantitative road. Okay. So ayan ka na naman. That's you. You've now decided on your topic. Alam mong measurable yung topic mo, yung phenomenon that you want to measure. Now, we go quanti. Okay. In quantitative, it's all about the variables. It's all about the variables. It's nothing but variables. Puro variables lang yan. Kaya if you don't know your variables, oh no. Kaya first and foremost, you need to know the variables. Bakit? Kasi the variables will become your research question, your statement of the problem. Your variables will be mentioned in your title. Diba po? If you don't have variables, you have no statement of the problem and you have no title. And you have nothing. You have to start with the variables. Ano ba yung variables natin? Quanti po kasi ito, di ba? Okay. And then, once you have an idea of what these variables are, you have to identify specifically ano ba itong gusto kong pag-aralan. Sometimes, no, the researcher is confused. Ang dami niyang nababanggit na kung ano ang ganito, ganyan, ganon. No? Especially for the novice researcher or the first time researcher, yun po yung napapansin kong problema. Ang dami niyang gustong pag-aralan. No, wow, you alam mo, kasi sanay na po ako mag-identify ng variables. Sabi ko sa isang nagde-defense, alam mo, you have 5 variables. Parang, that's impossible. You cannot study all of that. No, settle for just a few. Yung mga multivariate researches kasi pang ano na yan eh. Pang super duper high level na po yan. Ano po? Yan po yung mga ginagawa ng mga research institutions. Hindi na po yan pang graduate studies. Pang research institution na po yung mga ginagawa ng mga scientists, no? hindi hindi po natin yun nire-require sa mga graduate studies or sa doctoral na multivariate. Although kung gusto mo, kaya mo, sure. No, pero it's not really essential. It's not necessary. Okay? So, once you have identified your variables, no, you can now you must now find a way that they can be measured. Kasi sabi nga natin kanina, is it measurable? Is there a way to measure it? So we will now have to define it in such a way that it can be measured. No? And mahalaga po itong part na to. Mahalaga itong part. Take note na po, hindi pa po natin sinisimulan ng chapter 1. Hindi pa po. Hindi po natin pwedeng simulan ng chapter 1 without going through these stages. Iba yung nagiging problema. Chapter 1 agad, introduction. Wala pa nga siyang variables eh. So what do you do? Ito muna. It's about thinking, it's about planning, it's about imagination, it's about paano ba? Ito ba o iyon? Anong gusto kong palabasin? Yung mga ganitong mga katanungan na ikaw lang ang makakasagot. Kasi once you start writing chapter 1 at hindi mo pa alam yon, talagang madadapa ka. No? Talagang titigil ka and then blanco ka na. Bakit hindi ko masulat ang chapter 1? Kasi hindi natin nasunod itong prosesong to. So I'm trying to show you po ano po yung proseso talaga. Iba kasi 'di ba pag sa mga research subjects po natin, let's start with chapter 1. Ito ang laman ng chapter 1 ganyan. Agad-agad, no? Hindi. Konting ano muna yan. Ano ba ang gusto mong pag-aralan? Alright? Okay. So we will now define. So identify the variables and then define the variables. Alright. So yan po ang quantitative route. Now, bigyan ko po kayo ng very basic example which I always give it. I don't know if I always give it in the previous webinars, pero from the point of view of the teacher, relatable po ito since most of you are in the field of education. Yan, no? Consider this. Let's say, for example, mababaw lang po ito na example, ano po, no? So, hindi po ito, baka sabihin nyo, pang graduate studies ba? Hindi. Ano lang to, example lang po to for what we are trying to explain. For example, as a teacher, you observe that sad students get low grades in your class. Bakit yung mga estudyante na parang walang kibo, hindi ngumingiti, sila pa yung mababa yung mga score? Napansin mo yon. Napansin mo pa lang yon. No? Observation mo pa lang yon. So good. Tingnan natin, pasok ba yan doon sa 6 factors na sinabi natin? Is it my field? Yes, you're an educator, you're a teacher. Di ba po? Interesado ka ba? Oh, okay. Mapansin mo eh. So you must be interested, no? Yeah, so tingnan natin kung pasok siya doon sa 6, no? Before we even venture into finding out kung talagang pwede natin pag-aralan, no? Magugustuhan ba ito ng institution kung saan ako nag-aaral, no? Possibly, no? Tingnan natin. You might want to ask, no? Sa graduate school mo, kung katanggap-tanggap ba itong topic na ito. Kasi, Doc, meron ako napansin. Sa mga klase ko, yung mga malulungkot na bata, sila pa yung mababa ang grades. Pwede po bang pag-aralan yun? Can ask. Di ba? Institutional preferences. No? Okay. So, ayan. So, na-observe mo yan. And you're interested in that. Now, this is what you wish to study. But how? Paano pag-aaralan yan? This becomes a problem. Di ba po? Paano ko pag-aaralan yan? Ano ang dapat kong gawin para pag-aralan yan? Di ba po? First, identify po natin yung variables. No? Para nakikita na natin kung ano yung variables. Eh. Pero, is it enough to just see it? No? We must also name it and then define it. No? Kasi nakikita mo eh. Kikita mo na eh. Pero, kailangan pa natin muna siyang i-identify and define. Okay po? Minsan dito nagkakaproblema. Paano ko ba i-define? Paano ko ba i-identify? Di ba po? Kaya minsan kailangan talaga, you really need some guidance here dito sa part na ito. Kasi madalas, nagkakaproblema dito. Okay, now, the first variable, could be the student's grades. Di ba? Kasi napansin mo, baba yung grades nila. Which we can term as academic performance muna. Initially, kasi napansin mo, academic performance niya mababa. Okay? Pero maraming components ang academic performance. Di ba po? Marami po yan. Before you can come up with a grade in a subject, ang dami niyang kailangan gawin, mga assessments and all that. Di ba po? And the second variable, has something to do with sadness. Sabi nga natin kanina. So maybe we can use the term mood. Kasi mahirap depression, So mood na lang. Yan, mood. Kasi depression is a medical diagnosis. No? Hindi naman tayo magma-medical diagnosis ng mga estudyante natin. Di ba po? So, pwede siguro mood na lang. No? To make it more simplified and hindi tayo, parang psychological yung topic mo, pang psychology, naligaw ka na pag sinabi mong depression. Di ba po? So, mood na lang. No? Mood is measurable. Yan. Okay po. So, we now have 2 potential variables. Potential pa lang, Yan, academic performance and mood. Okay, di ba? From our observation, meron na po tayong 2 potential variables. No? So, academic performance and yung mood ng mga estudyante. Okay. Now, we must now go to the step involving definition. Define mo kung ano ba yan. Kasi if you cannot define it, cannot measure it. No? Bakit naman? Cannot define it, cannot measure. Doon po naguguluhan yung mga gumagawa na research, Bakit kailangan define? Pwede ba, measure ko na agad, Hindi. You need to be very specific. Quantitative is all about focus. It's all about refining, fine-tuning everything that you want to study. Otherwise, sabog yan. Di mo alam kung ano pag-aaralan mo. Kaya pag may nagde-defense na, na yan ang gusto pag-aralan, what do you mean by academic performance? Eh di grades. Kailan? Ano subject? Ah, ay, oo nga, no? School year 2020. O, sige, ano subject? O, gusto mo GPA? Di ba? Ang dami palang kailangan i-consider. Hindi lang basta-basta academic performances naiintindihan agad ng panel. No? The panel will not assume what you understand. Hindi niya mababasa ang isip natin. Kaya kailangan you have to be very specific. Research, scientific method is about specificity. No? You have to be really specific, no? Clear, no? A clear definition will help your reader and your panel understand what you want to do. Kaya medyo vague pa yung academic performance. Oo nga, no? Academic performance, general pa yan. So, what we now need is what are called operational definitions. Kaya babanggitin ko na po ito ngayon, although babanggitin ko rin ito later. Pag tayo ay nagsusulat ng definition of terms sa chapter 1, minsan marami researchers kung ano-ano din i-define. Pagtingin ko sa definition of terms sa 3 pages, parang, ba't ang dami mo definition of terms? You only define the things that you're going to study. No, yung common usage words, don't define anymore. No, what is a teacher? What is a student? Hindi po kailangan define yon kasi yung nagbabasa alam na niya yon. Ang mahalaga is how you define your variables. Yan lang po hinahanap ng inyong panel. Ano po? How you define your variables kasi yun yung pag-aaralan mo. Everything else, they understand. No? Di ba po? Okay. So, kaya yung tawag operational. We don't use definitions that come from the dictionary. We don't use definitions that come from Wikipedia. No? Unacceptable po yun. No, we only use operational definitions. Pag quanti po tayo, ha? Quanti po. Okay. Yan. So, now, let's focus. Let's refine our definition. No? Academic performance. No? Kung gusto mong talagang i-fine-tune ang academic performance, tingnan natin ito. Let's focus on the subject. Let's focus on activity scores. Anong activity? Anong score niya doon? And kailan niya nakuha yung score na yun sa subject na yun? Once we have narrowed down these 3, remember, example lang po ito. Once we have narrowed down these 3, we can now come up with an operational definition. Let's say ang pinili mo ay algebra. Ang pinili mo ay quarterly assessment. No? We can all use that to come up with our operational definition. No? And ito po yun. Ito po ang magiging itsura niyan. Student scores in algebra test during a quarterly assessment. That now becomes our operational definition. Is that measurable? Yes, it is. Is it specific? Yes, it is. You have answered the question, what? You have answered the question, when. Ayan. So, alam na natin, na-fine-tune na natin. Meron na tayong operational definition. No? Hindi naman natin kailangan pag-aralan mo ang buong academic performance ng estudyante sa buong buhay niya. Di ba po? Pag-aralan nga natin ang academic performance ng bata simula grade 1 hanggang grade 6. Hindi naman siguro kailangan gawin yun. No? Academic performance what do you mean by academic performance? You just focus on one score, one subject, at one particular time. And that's your operational definition. That's how you define it. Di ba po? Alright. Okay, so let's now go to the next variable. Yan, mood. Mood can be defined similarly. You can find mood questionnaires. Ano po tayo ng mood suited to a particular age ng learner natin. No? So if you consider giving a mood test before, tingnan natin to. Ano yung operational definition natin? We can give a mood test and get the score of the students just before the algebra test during the quarterly assessment. Ayan. Ano po? Halimbawa, magte-test pa lang siya. No? Bigyan natin sila ng mood test. Tingnan natin yung mga negative ba ang mood, mataas ang grade, mataas ang score, o mababa. Yung mga positive ba ang mood, maganda ba ang score nila? Makakita tayo ng pattern. No? And that pattern is what's interesting to us. That's what interests us. Whether or not there is some connection between these two variables that you've identified so far. No po? Ayan. So now, having gone through all that, no? Kailan, dadaan muna kasi talaga tayo dyan. No? You now have two variables that have been defined in a measurable way. Di ba po? Algebra test scores from academic performance, nag-fine-tune tayo. Algebra test scores na lang. And then we can use mood scores. Ano po? And then, sabi natin, what would you like to do with these two variables? Kasi define na natin eh. No? Ano pwede natin gawin dyan? No? You can now come up with your primary research question. Kasi when you have a statement of the problem, di ba marami po yun. Minsan 4, minsan 5. You only have one primary research question there. And that primary research question is the one where you give a hypothesis. Hindi naman lahat yan bibigyan mo ng hypothesis eh. Now, what is the profile of the respondents? Hindi mo naman kailangan bigyan ng hypothesis yon. Di ba po? Ang kailangan mo lang bigyan ng hypothesis is your primary research question, which becomes your topic also. Di ba po? Is there a relationship between students' algebra test scores and their mood scores? Yan. Yan ngayon ang ating research question, our primary research question, our primary SOP that also becomes the basis for the title of your study. Okay? Pansinin niyo po yung research question, nandyan po yung variables natin. Nakikita po natin clearly yung variables natin stated there. Ayan. Once we have a primary research question, everything else will follow. Madali na po lahat. Dito po kasi nagkakaproblema. Kasi agad-agad sinisimulan ng chapter 1. No? Okay, so ayan na, meron na po tayong ganito. Okay po. So, let's now proceed to the qualitative road naman. Okay, so ibang-ibang mundo po ito. So if the qualitative process is very alien to you, no, minsan ayaw mong alamin eh. Parang ayoko yata yan. Hindi na lang ako makikinig. Ayoko alamin yan. Mahirap yan. Totoo, mahirap talaga yan. I have a whole bunch of masteral thesis advices na nagkakwali sila ngayon. Hindi sila matapos-tapos. Ano po? Anyway, pero some institutions talaga, they really appreciate quali. Ano po? So anyway, ayan. So, in general, hindi lagi po in general lang kasi maraming quali. Yung topic for the qualitative research involves an experience. Involves an experience that is new. Involves an experience that is new or that is shared only by a few. No, kaya kakaiba. Gusto mong pag-aralan. Baka gusto mong pag-aralan kasi bago yung experience or kaunting tao lang ang naka-experience. No? Bago yung experience or kakaunti lang yung taong naka-experience nun. I have a thesis advisee right now who is struggling kasi ang kanyang topic, she actually attends this webinar. I don't know where she is today. Baka busy siya. Pero lagi siyang nag-a-attend eh. I don't know kung nandyan yata. Nandyan ka ba, ma'am? Hindi ko na nababagitin yung pangalan. Okay, so ang topic na gusto niyang pag-aralan is, quali po ito, the lived experiences of COVID-19 survivors. That is very new. And that is shared by, marami naman. Kasi di ba, sabi ng DOH, 90+% ang nagre-recover. Pero, siya, medyo nahihirapan siya maghanap ng mga participants niya. Why? Kasi ayaw nila. Ayaw nila magpa-interview. Kaya that becomes the problem. Isipin niyo yan. That is a new experience shared by only a few. Nilagyan pa niya ng parameters. May inclusion criteria siya. Must belong to a particular profession. Hindi natin babanggitin kung anong profession. Must be a COVID-19 survivor belonging to a particular profession. So, na-narrow down niya kasi kailangan may inclusion criteria ka na dapat masunod mo. No? And Yun po yung kanyang struggle niya. Naghahanap siya ng mga participants, ganyan, no? Okay, so that is an example of an experience that is new and probably shared by a few kung nag-narrow down ka lang to a particular field or profession in a particular geographic location. For example, sabi mo, I want to study COVID-19 survivors of this profession who live in Marikina. Yun, konti lang yun. Kung buong Pilipinas, marami yan. Pero kung Marikina lang, baka konti lang yun. At konti lang yung kilala mong gano'n. So, mahirapan ka ngayon maghanap. Okay? So, bakit mo gusto explore yan? Kasi it's new. It's only shared by a few. Okay, ano yung naramdaman nila? We can only imagine what they went through because we have not gone through it ourselves unless meron po sa inyo na COVID-19 survivor. We don't want to assume what they felt. Kasi whatever they felt, no, sila lang nakakalam. Di po tayo pwedeng mag-assume. Kung ano man yung mga nararamdaman, naiisip nating mararamdaman natin, no? Baka hindi yung naramdaman nila. Kaya we cannot assume. That's why you want to study. That's why you want to do quali. Because qualitative is all about exploration. You're exploring the new experience. Yan. Okay po? Alright. So, more or less, no, in general, no, kasi maraming quali. And hindi lahat ng quali will focus on new experience. No? Pero in general, yun yung nakikita kong trend ng mga theses that are quali in nature. Okay? So, marami pong uri yan, no? So, you may need to figure out first what is the qualitative research design best suited for your statement of the problem and your selected research participants. Kasi nga marami. So, we had a webinar a few weeks ago about qualitative research, no? And doon po marami pong pagpipilian. Kaya minsan, pag dumadami yung pagpipilian, lalo ka nalilito eh. Alam niyo po yung tawag doon. Ano yung tawag doon pag masyado ka maraming choices? No? No? Saan ka na? Parang pag tawag dyan. Pag bibili ka na ng kape sa Starbucks, ano ba dito? Sa sobrang dami. No? Yan, no? The confusion arises when you have so many choices. Kaya minsan gusto ng mga tao, wala na lang choice. Ito na lang, basta ito na lang. Papaisipin mo pa ako eh. No? Pero yun nga, ang problema doon. Baka naman pinagsiksikan mo yung choice mo dun sa topic mo, hindi naman pala swak. Hindi naman pala sila fit. No? Kaya best suited dapat. If you're not aware of all these research designs that you have at your disposal, you cannot choose if you don't know others. Kaya mas maganda na alam natin lahat. Kaya mahirap po talaga to engage, sabi nga natin, your understanding of the research process is a factor in the choice of topic that you will research. If you only know one type of quali method, no, and pag sisiksikan mo dun sa one type na yun yung topic mo, baka hindi maganda yung maging resulta pag kaharap nyo na po yung panel. Okay po, kasi may ganon, may nag-defend sa harap namin. Gusto niya pag-aralan lahat, hindi naman pala pwede para sa kanya. Sa kanyang research topic. No? So we had to recommend, as panelists, hindi po pwede yung research design na gusto nyo eh. Dahil ang dami yung sources of data. You want 3 sources of data, but you only want lived experiences. So, ang sinuggest ko na lang, alam mo, mag-triangulation ka na lang since you have 3 sources of data. So, nagbago tuloy. Case study using triangulation instead of phenomenological, qualitative, lived experience. Okay po. Ayan. So, let's now summarize what we have learned so far in terms of a flowchart. So, balikan natin si quantitative. Ano po ba? Pag quantitative po, you first need to know what your variables are. Identify them muna. And then, define your variables, gaya ng ginawa po natin. It has to be specific. Super specific talaga kasi tatanong din ng panel yan eh. No? And after you have defined it, you can now come up with your primary research question. Huwag niyo muna problemahin yung ibang research question. Primary research question muna. Okay po? Kasi everything else will spring from this research question. And then that's when you start writing your chapter 1. Mahirap po talaga isulat ng chapter 1 if you have no idea what your variables are. Pagdating sa quantity. Ano po? So go through these steps first before you even begin writing your chapter 1. Okay, now let's go to qualitative naman. So may similar flowchart din po tayo. Sa quali, ito po ang kailangan nyo gawin. You need to identify your participants, pero sabay niyan, the experience that you want to study. Why? Because you cannot study one without the other. I want to study teachers. Tungkol saan? Or I want to study behavior ng mga tao pag merong disaster. Experience Nino. you have to identify both of them together. Hindi pwedeng, I want to study teachers. I want to study experiences of people who survive a disaster. Diba? You cannot have one without the other. You have to have them both together. Kaya sabayan. Kaya sa flowchart po natin, sabay po yan. No? You cannot divorce one from the other. The experience must be experienced by a person or people. And you cannot study a person or people if you don't know what you're going to study on the experience nila na pag-aaralan mo. So sabay po yan that you have to consider. Po. And then you select your research design. And that's a very complicated process. Kaya may separate webinar para lang dyan. Okay? And once you have done that, may karapatan ka ng isulat ang chapter 1 mo. Yan. So go through these steps first before you begin writing your chapter 1. Kaya marami po nadadapa. Kasi diretso agad sila eh. Chapter 1, introduction, patay. Wala siya masulat kasi hindi niya alam kung ano yung pag-aaralan niya. So ganun po muna. It involves a lot of planning and thinking, no? And debating with yourself, no? Minsan nagko-consulta ka pa, minsan pupunta ka pa sa library, titignan ano ba yung mga napag-aralan na, no? Minsan ganun ginawa ko eh. Sabi ko, para maganda yung kalabasan ng aking research sa masteral, hindi muna ako nag-isip ng topic. Pumunta muna ako sa library. Tinignan ko yung mga thesis nila. Naghanap ako ng mga thesis na mataas ang grade, outstanding. Kasi pag outstanding yung grade mo, pwede kang magkaroon ng with honors sa pag-graduate mo. Doon kasi sa pinag-graduatean ko po ng masteral, may ganon. No? May cum laude, magna cum laude, summa cum laude. So ito ginawa ko, binasa ko yung kanya thesis. Outstanding eh. Ito pala yung basehan nila ng panel para maging outstanding. Tinignan ko yung ano yung nagustuhan ng panel sa research niya. Nag-aralan ko po yun. Ganito rin ang gagawin ko. No? Kung ano yung style niya, gagawin ko rin para matuwa yung panel pag nag-defense ako. So, true enough, nakakatuwa kasi nag-outstanding ako. And then, nung gagraduate na, no, merong announcement, 3 kami yung magsusuma cum laude. No, and then, syempre, pipili lang ng isa para maging valedictorian ng batch. No? Siya yung magsi-speech. So, thank God ako yung napili. Yeah, I'm very happy. And I only finished it in 1.5 years. Kasi sabi ko, gusto ko maging valedictorian. Kasi nung college, pasaway ako eh. Hindi ako masyado mahilig mag-aaral nun. Sabi, babawi ako sa masteral. Gusto ko maging summa cum laude. Yeah, gusto ko kayo valedictorian. Kaya that's the story of my masteral thesis, which I only finished in 1.5 years. Okay, so ayan. Okay po, so ito po yun. Kaya wala pa tayong binabagay sa chapter 1. No? Ito lang po muna. Kasi pag pinag-usapan agad natin yung chapter 1, I will be doing you a disservice. So you want to start it, hindi mo alam paano gawin eh. No? Okay, so now that we know what we first have to do, no, may idea ka na what you want to study, no, that's the time when we can now discuss the research process. Let's assume may topic na kayong lahat. So we will move forward with the assumption na you all have topics already. Alam niyo na kung quanti or quali. No? So ito na po yung gist ng talk natin. Okay. So, chapter 1, sabi nga, is the engine that drives the document. No? Kasi nandiyan yung statement of the problem mo eh. Kaya pag nagpa-panel po kami, ang una namin binabasa sa thesis, we go directly to the statement of the problem because that is the heart and soul of chapter 1. The statement of the problem, your primary research question. Yan po ang tinitinan agad namin. Kasi that's the guiding question of the entire 5 chapters of your thesis. Apo? Okay? And the goal of your chapter 1, not only does it introduce or tell the panel and the reader what you want to study, but it also must convince the reader and the panel that it is worth studying. Yun po ang function and purpose ng chapter 1. It must be convincing. Kaya ang sabi po dito, argument, empirical. So may mga citation po yan. Yan, no? It should be filled with proofs. Proofs of what? That it's worth studying. That it is an existing issue. That it is a timely issue. No po? It is an issue that is current. Kaya meron ako isang thesis advice, yun ang problema niya kasi ang tagal-tagal-tagal na niyang ginagawa yung thesis niya, pre-pandemic pa. Hanggang ngayon, yun pa rin yung kanyang ginagawa. And then nasabi ko sa kanya, alam mo, may nag-defense recently, yung topic niya, pre-pandemic, hindi na tinanggap. Kasi yung basis ng kanyang studies, face-to-face classes. Alam mo, wala na kasing ganoon. Kaya hindi na tinanggap. Kaya kahit final defense yun, pinaulit sa kanya yung thesis niya. Kasi moot and irrelevant na yung topic niya. Kasi classroom management ang topic. Yung sa advice ko, ganun din. Sabi ko, alam mo, ayokong sabihin sa'yo na papasayan kasi may nag-defense, pinaulit sa kanya. Maybe you need to think about a topic that is timely. No? Hindi yung, kasi ang sinusukat niya is attendance, classroom attendance. Wala nang classroom eh. So, yun yung problema. No? How can you prove something that's no longer existing? Okay po. Alright. So, nakakita rin ako ng ganitong problema. May nagsulat ng thesis niya na, wow, very flowery words. No? Parang eloquent ng kanyang mga words. Para siya nagsusulat ng creative writing. So medyo na kami ng panel yan. Bakit ganito tong introduction mo? Parang kang nagpo-prose. Prose. Chapter 1 is not about that though. It's academic writing. Academic writing is scientific writing. It's not about flowery words and eloquence, no? Attempting to mesmerize the reader or the panel. Kalimutan po natin 'yon. Hindi po 'yan creative writing. So, when you are mentioning words, you have to be consistent with what the word means for you. Gaya ng sabi natin kanina, no? Algebra test. Hindi pwedeng use different words for the same concept. Okay? Yan. Use plenty of transitional words. Bakit? Kasi chapter 1 is a story. Is a story of why you want to study your topic. And you have to present it as such. And the story has a flow. So kailangan may transition ka. Furthermore, therefore, in view of the following, as a result, may mga ganyan kayo dapat. Hindi yung kada paragraph kasi binabasa ko kada paragraph stand alone eh. Hindi ganun po, no? Hindi po stand alone kada paragraph. Kailangan may flow siya. Parang ano na naman ang connect nitong paragraph na to dun sa nauna. Parang ganun yung nangyayari po, no? So you must see the train of thought. Ano po yung train of thought ninyo, no? Hindi yung kung ano-ano lang isusulat natin doon sa introduction para lang, okay na yan, may introduction na ako. Ayos na yan. Napupuna rin po ng panel yan. Ganyan. Okay, so clarity is important. And ganito yan, minsan may nabasa ako na introduction, pagkahaba-haba-haba-haba, hindi niya binabanggit agad yung kanyang topic. So, you're in suspense, no? Ano bang gusto nitong pag-aralan? Basa ka ng basa ng chapter 1. Dapat sa simula pa lang, medyo nababanggit mo na. Banggitin mo and then follow up with arguments why you want to study it. Hindi yung arguments muna and then and then the topic na. Kasi minsan, no? Some panelists will will not appreciate that. May build up ka pa, merong suspenseful build up. Therefore, I want to study this and that after 10 pages of introduction. Hindi po, parang sinayang mo lang yung pagod mo dun sa 10 pages na yun or kahit 5 pages. Ano po? Ayan. So, you need to state your general field of interest. So, kasama po yan doon sa arguments, no? And you want to establish the purpose of your study. Okay? So, the purpose of the study lays out the objectives of your research, no? Ayan. So, medyo babanggitin mo na ng kaunti kung paano mo i-approach. Of course, yung research design na gagamitin mo, you will explain in full sa chapter 3. Pero, pwede nyo na pong banggitin yan dito. Again, disclaimer po, iba-iba po ang format ng mga schools, ng mga graduate schools. Kaya advice ko po sa inyo, hingi po kayo ng tapos na thesis, yung pinaka-recent kasi nagbabago po yung format. Doon po sa pinagtuturuan ko isang school na graduate school, pabago-bago sila ng format kasi they want to be updated eh. Ano na bang bagong trend ngayon? No? Ganito na, bagong trend ngayon. So dahil bago na yung trend ngayon, kailangan magbago rin yung format. So, ang advice ko po sa inyo, hiram po kayo or hingi kayo or download kayo ng tapos na thesis at follow the format. Ano po yung laman ng chapter 1? Minsan may mga chapter 1 na may heading, purpose of the study. May ganun talaga. Minsan, it's integrated, no? And mentioned in the introductory paragraphs. Kaya kailangan po talaga alamin natin kung ano po yung current format of the graduate school where we are studying. Okay? So, means may konting banggit na po kung paano natin pag-aaralan, no? Pero syempre lahat po 'yan, no? You will explain in full sa chapter 3. Pwede pong pahapyaw na lang. No? Again, depende po yan sa preferences ng institution where you are studying. Okay? So, I'll give you an example po of a thesis na tapos na. So, tapos na po ito. So, we will draw upon para po may visual example po tayo of these different parts of the chapter 1. So, this is a very recent thesis na natapos sa isang school kung saan po ako nagtuturo ng masteral. And ito po yung ginawa niyang topic, parental involvement and academic performances of grade 7 students. As you can see from the title alone, kita mo na agad yung variables niya. Meron siyang dalawang variables, parental involvement and academic performances. Nino, ang grade 7 student. Siyempre, pag hindi mo binanggit kung sino, di ba? Nino. Yan ang una mong isipin eh. Nino. So, mas maganda binanggit mo na. No? In some schools, gusto nila banggitin pati kung grade 7 students of what school. Pero there are some schools na ayaw nilang pabanggit. No? So, there are different reasons. Pero it has to be clear in the title. So, ito po yung author niyan. Nakagraduate na po yan. Kaya may karapatan na po tayo pag-aralan yung kanyang thesis kasi nakapasa na po yan. At mataas po yung grade ng thesis na ito. Okay. So, in chapter 1, meron din tayong background of the problem. No? And this will include some related literature, no, about the topic that you have chosen to study. Yeah. So, as well as kung na-observe mo, it's based on your observation. No, kasi background of the problem will also involve your experiences. Nakita mo bang nangyari ito? Na-observe mo bang nangyari ito? No? So, kung meron po kayong personal stake dun sa topic, you can also include that. Okay? Maganda po na meron kayong citation of related literature per paragraph. Di naman kailangan tad-tad ng sandamakmak na, na related literature kasi chapter 1 pa lang naman yan. No? And you can always use the same related literature in chapter 2. So, huwag nyo isipin na, ay, gagamitin ko yan sa chapter 2, ay, hindi ko pwedeng gamitin yan sa chapter 1. Hindi naman kailangan. You can recycle the related literature. Ano po? Kasi irrelevant naman po siya. Okay, so maganda po yan kasi it establishes that you are well read in the topic and there is proof, no? There is research backing your reasons for studying the topic. That's the point of related literature. Okay, so it's a summary of unresolved issues, no? Conflicting findings, social concerns, depende po sa inyo kung ano yung gusto niyo isulat dyan eh. Educational, national, or international issues. Iba, lalo na kung teachers ang gumagawa ng kanilang mga thesis, no? They cite DepEd order this, DepEd order that, no? Kung ano ang batas, no? RA ganito. Meron silang mga ganun pa. Para, wow, convincing. May batas pa, may DepEd order pa. No? So, you can also include that in the background of the problem. Now again, no? Yung thesis na gagawin nyo, depende po yan. Again, kung merong ganyang heading, baka wala. So, kung wala, integrate nyo na lang yan dun sa introductory paragraph. No, yun lang yata yung hindi nawawala. Introduction. Wala pa ako nakikitang research na walang introduction. Kahit yung IMRAD may introduction. Okay? So, you can also mention that there's a gap in the knowledge. No? Gap in the research knowledge. No? Maganda po yan. It's not, pwede mo sabihin na hindi pa siya masyadong napag-aralan kasi konti lang nakikita mong related literature. Okay? Alright. So, tingnan po natin ito, no? Yung sabi nga nating example. Ito po yung background of the study niya. Kasi diba, grade 7 students, no? Parental involvement, academic performance. So, meron siyang sinasite dito na in the Philippine context, ganito, ganyan. Meron pa siyang mga citation. Okay po? So, nabanggit po niya yon. So, ito po yung kanyang background of the study. Separate from the introduction po yan. Okay. So, ayan na. Statement of the problem na. Kaya, ang mahalaga po is, pag alam na natin yung ating pag-aaralang variables, or kung ano man yun, kung quali yan, we can now proceed to the statement of the problem. Which will depend on the, kung quali yan, it will depend on the research design. Po. So, in your arising from the background of the statement is the statement of the gap. So, kung may gap yung research knowledge base po natin, pwede nyo pong pwede pong dun manggaling yung inyong statement of the problem. Po. Yan. Pero kung quanti ka naman, di ba, yung variables mo na, state mo na. So, you can actually just state it directly kung alam mo na kung ano yung gusto mong pag-aralan. Okay? So, ayan. Okay, so, primary research questions, no? Ano po yung mga gusto natin itanong? The primary research question is the basis for the data collection and arises from the purpose of the study. Kaya connected lahat yan, interconnected po lahat yan. So, sanay po tayo na ang statement of the problem po natin ay marami. Hindi po isa lang. Okay? And this will inevitably come up with results. No? Ito po yung pagmumula ng results ng study natin. That will be a contribution to the knowledge of the world about that particular topic. Lalo na pag pinublish mo. Okay. So, do not confuse. Sa quali po kasi, may nakita akong ganito, nakakatuwa. Yung statement of the problem niya, yun din yung kanyang. Akala niya, yung interview questions, diba mag-i-interview siya sa quali. Akala niya, yung itatanong niya doon sa participants, yun din yung statement of the problem. Sabi ko, teka, hindi yan yung statement of the problem mo. Yung itatanong mo sa participant is a means to answer your statement of the problem. But you do that, make the questions as the statement of the problem. No? Parang ang tanong niya, diba, COVID-19 survivor, how would you describe your experience during the time that you were sick? And then statement of the problem niya, number 1, how would you describe your experiences during the time that you were sick? Hindi yun. Naguguluhan talaga pag gano'n. If you're not really familiar with quali, no? Yung interview questions ay statement of the problem na pag-iisa. I need to emphasize that po. Okay, so balikan po natin yung ating sample thesis. Ito po ang kanyang statement of the problem. So, I don't know kung ano po ang standard sa inyong graduate school, pero dito po sa school na ito, kung saan po siya gumraduate at kung saan po ako nagtuturo, no? Ito po yung format. No? Laging tinatanong, what is the profile of the participants? In this case, ano po yung profile ng parents? Inalam niya yung gender, yung age, educational attainment, and socioeconomic status. Inalam rin po niya yung academic performances of grade 7 students, no? Inalam din po niya yung parental involvement, no? Tapos may ginamit siyang instrument, no? Epstein's 6 types of parental involvement. So may questionnaire po yan. Ano po yung, and then may yung primary research question niya. Parang dalawa eh. What is the relationship of the level of parental involvement and academic performance? And is there a significant relationship between the levels of parental involvement when parents are grouped according to profile? So, parang gumamit siya dito ng dalawang relationship statistical tools, no? Pagdating sa number 5, dahil categorical yan, gagamit po siya ng chi-square test of independence. So, this is purely quantitative. Ayan. Okay, so yan po yung statement of the problem niya. Okay, so significance of the study, no? Binabanggit po yan lagi sa chapter 1, no? And sino po ba ang makikinabang sa resulta ng inyong research? Yun po yung sinasagot ng significance of the study. Sino ba ang makikinabang? No? Ano po ang contribution to the body of knowledge? No? Yan, will it help improve policy? No? Etc. No, babanggitin po natin yan. So parang ano na, pro forma na lang yan. Parang laging kasama, so hindi na natin tinatanggal. No? Okay? So gaya nito, again, babalikan natin yung example ng thesis na pinapakita ko po sa inyo. Ang significance of the study po niya ay meron po muna siyang pauna, no? And it will benefit daw students, teachers. Again, iba-iba po ang format ng mga thesis, depends sa eskwelahan. Ano po. So dito may kailangan pa ilagay yung 4. No? For school administrators, for future researchers, common na laging kasama. No? Baka pwede nating, sabi niya, baka beneficial din daw for mental health professionals. Kaya ito po yung kanyang isinulat. Remember itong part na ito nung chapter 1, this is not do or die. Hindi po siya critical. No? Pwede pong hindi perfect yung parts na yun. Kasi sabi nga natin, substance is more important than form. Kaya may mga parts ang thesis na hindi kailangan masyadong perfect. And this is one of them. Binabanggit lang natin dito kasi sanay po tayo sa may ganyan. Okay po. Yan. And then, you always have a hypothesis for your primary research questions. Okay po. So, ito po yung testable prediction. No? Again, depende po yan sa institution ninyo. Kung kayo po ay gumagamit ng null hypothesis, or kung gumagamit po kayo ng alternative hypothesis, or kung gumagamit po kayo ng both. So, may mga thesis sa ibang schools na may null na, may alternative hypothesis pa. In some schools naman, null hypothesis lang. Bakit nga ba null hypothesis? Gusto mo i-test kung may relationship pero sasabihin mo there is no relationship. Yun ang null hypothesis mo, di ba po? No? Bakit nga ba? Yan, sasagutin natin yan mamaya. Okay? So sa qualitative studies, since you're not doing hypothesis testing, there's no hypothesis. Okay po, hindi po natin nilalagyan ng hypothesis ang quali. Kasi we don't know what you're going to do. You're going to discover kasi kaya nga siya exploratory. Okay po? Ayan. So, hypotheses are the testable predictions. No? And gaya dito, dalawa po ang hypothesis na ginamit doon sa ating example thesis. No? There is no significant relationship between parents' involvement and academic performance. And another null hypothesis for the statement of the problem number 5. There is no significant relationship between the profile of the respondents and the parental involvement. Bakit dalawa yan? Kasi dalawa rin po yung primary research question niya. Kung isa lang po yung primary research question, isa lang po ang hypothesis na makikita natin. Pero kasi tinest rin po niya against parent profile. Ano po? Kaya yun po yung ating, kaya dalawa po yung ating hypothesis. Again, bakit po null hypothesis? Kasi ayaw nating maging assuming. Hindi po tayo assuming. In the realm of scientific investigation, no? Sa scientific method, remember the thesis is just a manifestation of the scientific method. Hindi po natin ina-assume na mapoprove po natin na tama or totoo yung ating gustong ma-discover. Hindi po natin ina-assume yun kasi baka mapahiya tayo. Kaya ang null hypothesis lagi ang hypothesis mo kasi ayaw mo mapahiya. Yeah, what if i-assume mo na there is a relationship, no? There is a significant relationship. Tapos wala. Di parang nakakahiya, no? So, kaya mas maganda, null na lang. No. Kaya marami ganun ang ginagamit. Null hypothesis. Parang ano yan eh. Parang pag-ibig yan. Di ba? Hindi mo ina-assume na mahal ka niya. No? Mas maganda ang null hypothesis mo ay hindi ka niya mahal and then later, ma-prove mo na, uy, mahal nga niya ako. Di ba mas masaya yan kaysa assume mo mahal ka niya tapos ma-prove mong hindi ka niya mahal. Ang sakit naman nun. Di ba po? So ayan, para magising lang po tayo. Okay, so research design. Ito na. Minsan binabanggit po yan sa chapter 1, no? Pahapyaw. Minsan hindi. Depende po yan sa institution ninyo. So pwede nyo pong banggitin yan. Participants, instrumentation, and procedure. And i-elaborate yan in chapter 3. Again, depende po yan sa inyong school kung ano ang hinahanap nila sa chapter 1. Okay? So, ayan. Chapter 3 po siya talaga. Ina-explain in detail. Okay? Sa qualitative study, no, kung ano po yung gagamitin nyo po depende sa design. Alright. So, ayan. Okay. So, again, it depends on your school kung saan nilalagay yung theoretical framework. Sometimes, the theoretical framework is mentioned in chapter 1. In some schools that I teach at, the theoretical framework is mentioned in chapter 2. Bakit? Kasi part siya ng related literature para kasi naghanap ka ng theory, nagbunga ng related literature mo. So again, depende po yan sa inyong school. Okay po? So you use a theory that you want to test kasi that's the basis of what you want to study. Kaya hindi pwedeng walang theory. No, you have to work closely with the theory. No? For example, may theory on parental involvement. No? So if that's your thesis, then you have to work closely with that theory. Yan. So napakarami na pong theories. No? Kaya you have to choose what theory is best. Okay? So ito may binabanggit lang po naman ng mga example. No? Gaya ng Apple's intensification theory. No? Kasi stress daw makes teachers want to quit. Nakaka-relate po ba? Ayan. Okay? So pure sciences, iba naman po ang mga theory dyan. No? Sa biology, theory of evolution, and all that. Okay? And sometimes, may mga chapter 1 na may assumptions. No? So, assumptions. Nakakita na ako ng ganong mga thesis eh. May mga assumptions pa siya. Minsan, meron pang philosophical underpinnings. Ayan. Okay? So, your assumptions are self-evident truths that you just state depending on the topic. Kaya hindi tayo maka-cite na example dito kasi it will depend on the topic eh. Okay po? Ayan. So, again, depende po yan sa inyo. So, mas maganda po talaga gagamit po tayo ng gagayahin na thesis. Okay, and then you have the scope. Sometimes the scope is also included in chapter 1. Sometimes it's part of chapter 3. Kaya para i-assume ko na lang na part yan ng chapter 1 ninyo para na-discuss din natin. Okay, this is the extent of the study and contains kung paano po, ano po yung pag-aaralan ninyo. For example, sino, saan, kailan, who, what, when, where, how. Sagutin mo na lang yung lahat ng tanong na yon so that you know what your scope is. Kasi pag hindi mo sinulat yon, maguguluhan po yung reader, maguguluhan yung panel. Okay po? Alright. Yan. Okay? And whether or not you want to generalize. Kasi malalaman mo po sa scope kung yung results ay generalizable, especially in quantitative. No? Kung nasunod mo yung sampling, nasunod mo yung random sampling, no? And yung sample size, you can generalize. Pero kung hindi, no, malalaman din ng panel yan, ito lang pala ang scope niya, so we cannot generalize. Kaya yung dati may nagde-defend sa panel, generalize siya ng generalize. Sabi ko sa kanya, alam mo, hindi ka pwede makapag-generalize kasi qualitative yung yung study mo. You only interviewed 8 people, but you're generalizing to everyone. Hindi pwedeng ganun. Yun, so you have to correct whether or not you can generalize. So, nuances of qualitative research, quantitative research po yan. Okay? So, ayan, generalizability. And then we have limitations. Sometimes, may mga thesis ang tawag, delimitations. Pero actually, magkaiba daw yon. Ang limitations and delimitations are different. And so we will discuss the difference between these two. So, limitations, these are things that you have no control over. Ba, pandemic. Ano ba, ito lang yung taong naka-experience doon. No, ito lang yung available na teachers at that time. That's beyond your control. Hindi nyo na po magagawa ng paraan yun. So, lalagay mo po yung limitations mo. So, yun lang po, no? This becomes evident potential weaknesses which will could dilute the generalizability and validity of your findings kasi na-limit ka eh. Na-limit ka. Like right now, for example, you want to do an online study and then voluntary lang. Hindi ka naman pwede magpuwersa ng mga tao na sumagot ng Google Forms mo. So, voluntary yon. So, you have to write that now. This is voluntary. My participants are voluntary and kung sino lang yung sumagot, sila lang yung participants ko. That's a limitation. Wala ka namang control doon eh. Di ba po? Okay? So, ayan. So, all of this come into play when it comes to limitations. So, wala ka pong control sa mga bagay. Limitation po yan. Now, let's talk about the limitations. Ano po ang pagkakaiba? Ito po yung mga bagay na ikaw mismo ang nag-impose sa sarili mo. Paano po yun? For example, you just want to study one school. Yun ang limitation mo, the limitation mo that you set on yourself, that you imposed upon yourself. No? Diba? You just have to justify bakit yung school na yun. Kasi minsan yung panel nagtataka, bakit yun ang pinili mong school? Kaya tinawag na defense, kailangan pagtanggol mo yung mga choices mo. No? Yan, okay? So, these are self-imposed. Kaya maganda po yan. Nakasulat na po dito. What's the difference between limitation and delimitation? Po? So, sino po yung pag-aaralan mo? Students of school year 2020-2021. That's another delimitation. Gaya kanina sa example na binigay natin, algebra test score, quarterly assessment. That is another delimitation. Kasi ikaw yung namili eh. Ikaw yung nag-set. Okay po? So, yan. So, that's the difference between limitations and delimitations. Kaya, pagdating po dito sa example na ginagamit natin kanina, ito na naman po yan, no? Binanggit niya clearly kung sino yung pinag-aralan niya, grade 7 students of Marikina High School, no? And their parents or guardians, no? Yan, grades nila sa report card. So, these are all the limitations of the study. Okay? And then, ito na nga po yung nabanggit natin kanina, definition of terms. Yan. So, kung quantitative po kayo, you need to define it operationally, yung mga definitions po natin. Okay? Ayan, okay? So, sabi nga natin, you don't fill your chapter 1 with all sorts of definitions na hindi naman kailangan. Ano? It's just something that will guide your reader and your panelist. Kung ano ba ang ibig mong sabihin when you say mood? Ano ang ibig mong sabihin when you say parental involvement? It is a score based on Epstein's scale. Diba? Kasi kung hindi mo sinabi yon, ano ba parental involvement? Bamalay ko, parental involvement. Kinakamusta mo ba yung anak mo? Anak, kamusta ka na? Tapos na. O pumupunta ka sa school pag may program. Hindi mo alam eh. Hindi mo dinefine eh. Di ba po? Okay? So, you don't define terms that have more than... you define terms which can be confusing or have more than one meaning. Okay? So, ito po yung example ulit natin na thesis. Ano po yung mga dinefine niya? Dinefine niya academic performance, dinefine niya sino ba yung adolescents, dinefine niya yung home involved. Bakit? Kasi po, these are dimensions of the variable that she studied. Home involvement, homeschool collaboration, parental involvement, parenting styles, na nagamit din po niya yung concept na yan. Pupils, yan. And with that, that ends my presentation for this morning. Yeah. So I hope you are still there. So tapos na po kasi yan na po yung last part ng chapter 1 eh. So yeah, I will be giving back the floor to our host. So, Sir Mark.
Hi po.
Lapit na pala mag-12. Tuloy-tuloy lang ako.
Yes. Kumusta po? Okay pa po tayo lahat? Na-absorb pa po lahat? Ayan, nakasalamin na ako. Kita ko na sila lahat. Ayan. Alright. Now, I'm giving the floor to everyone. You may now raise your questions. You can type into your chat box or you can open your mic to be recognized. Para marinig naman natin yung mga boses nyo. Para pag pinanood nyo to ulit, hindi lang yung boses ko at boses ni Dr. Fabella yung maririnig niya. Paghanda nyo, medyo mag-modulate kayo ng konti. Tapos sabay open ang mic sa katanong. Muli po sa lahat po ng aming mga new students today, maraming salamat po. Hopefully, we gave you a very nice first impression. Sana babalik pa po kayo next week. Because next week naman, we'll be talking about Chapter 2, Review of Related Literature. So pag susundan nyo lahat ng talk ni Dr. Fabella, for sure, at the end of the month, tapos na yung thesis nyo. For sure yan. Kasi after po ng talk ni Dr. Fabella on Chapter 2, it would be back-to-back quantitative and qualitative. So masusundan mo talaga. Yan. Si Sir Mark is a new face at the center. Ano po yung tanong natin, Sir Mark? You're raising your hand.
Good afternoon. Good noon po. Kinig po ba ako? Hello po.
Opo, sir.
Good morning po. Opo. May question lang po ay pagdating po dun sa ating framework po. Nabanggit po kanina yung pagdating dun sa ating theoretical and conceptual framework. Meron din po tayong chapter 1. Yun po yung aking first question. And then dun sa second question ko po ay, ito din po ba yung format na ginagamit pagdating dun sa ating action research? Kasi po ako ay nagtuturo sa secondary school dito po sa Atimonan, Quezon. And po ay bago pa lang din po nag-aaral ng masteral degree, diploma program pa lang po at yung amin po ay ladderite. Ano po, ay tama-tama po at kami ay may research ang study po namin. Kaso po hindi po kami ay binibigyan ng format dahil sabi po sa amin kami ang bahalang kumuha ng format na gagamitin para dun sa aming research proposal. Yun po. Dr. Frederick Fabella. Good morning po.
Sige po, ano po yung first question nyo, sir?
Pagdating po sa first question ay po sa ating framework, necessary po ba na i-include pa natin research framework dun sa ating pagsusulat ng chapter po? Kasi po ang almost ang nakikita ko, napapansin ko po ay theoretical conceptual framework po yung included.
What do you mean by research framework po ba? Kasi baka iba-iba lang ang tawag sa mga different parts. Ano po ang ibig po nating sabihin sa research framework? Are you talking about conceptual framework po? Nagka-choppy yata si Sir Mark.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. About conceptual framework po.
Conceptual framework. Kasi minsan iba yung tawag sa yung flowchart. Again, depende po yan sa school. Some schools require both. No? May theoretical na, may conceptual pa. Pero may mga topic po kasi, kaya may conceptual framework. Kasi may mga topic na hindi nila mahanapan ng theory. No? At pag hindi mo mahanapan ng theory, no? Hindi mo naman pwedeng pagpilitan na itong theory na to, pwede na to. Instead of using a theoretical framework, you can use a conceptual framework. You have a concept, no? And then you connect the variables in a way that is understandable by your by your panelists and by your readers. Ano po, so madalas po dyan, no, kung alam nyo po yung default conceptual framework, yung input, process, output. Although ngayon, medyo outmoded na po yun. Pero dati po yun yung ginagamit, common na conceptual framework, yung IPO, input, process, output flowchart. So some schools, they require a conceptual framework. Other schools, hindi naman. Other schools, choice mo. So kung kayo po ang mamimili ng format na gagamitin nyo, di very flexible po, no? Pwede, kahit ano, pwede nyong lagay. Nahanap lang po kayo ng pwede nyong gayahin. Pero kung gagawin nyo po kasi talaga is action research, no? We actually have a separate webinar just for action research kasi yung focus po natin dito sa ating topic ngayon is for ano talaga, for the graduate school research, no? Kaya meron tayong chapter 1. Sa action research kasi, kung papansin niyo, walang mga chapter yan eh. diretso na siya. No? Kaya baka hindi applicable po ang ating mga natutunan sa chapter 1, except siguro sa statement of the problem and all that, no? Sa sulat natin ng action research kasi iba po talaga yung format. Yan. Sana po nasagot ko yung tanong niyo, Sir Mark.
Thank you, sir. Nasagot niyo naman po yung first and second question. May request lang po ako, sir. Dahil sabi niyo ay mas magandang gumawa or mas practical na paggawa tayo kung meron tayong format na sinusunod. Pwede presentation and yung research example na ipinakita niyo po, ipinasend niyo kanina. Kung pwede po.
Ano pong nire-request niyo po? Gusto niyo po ng sample?
Yung
yung i-share ko kanina?
Po ng na itinakita.
Yeah, actually, pwede niyo i-Google. Pwede niyo po i-Google. Online po yan. yung share ko po sa inyo, nasa internet po yan. Pwede niyo po i-download. Buong buo. Nandun po siya. Buong buo po.
Maybe what we can do best, Sir Mark, is once we send you copy of the recorded lecture, so with your certificate and acknowledgement receipt, we'll ask Dr. Fabella to send us also the link of that research so that we can send to you for reference purposes. Maybe that's the best that we can share as a help, Sir Mark. So
thank you, Sir Mark and Dr.
Thank you to Sir Mark, and hopefully we'll see you again next week para sa chapter 2. Doc, I'll just read some of the other questions. And kay si Sir Nicolas, nakita ko na siya kanina dito. Ayan. Sir, sorry po, we were able to read your message quite late na. Although, sir, don't you worry, we recorded the entire seminar. We'll send you po a copy together with your certificate and acknowledgement receipt, Sir Nicolas, para po masundan niyo po.
Okay, sir. Thank you very much, sir. Late na kasi ako naka-register, sir. I just know it. Late na ako. So, late na yung pa-register ko. Anyway, thank you very much, sir.
Okay lang po. And welcome po to Powerhouse, Sir Nicolas.
Thank you, sir.
Other questions, Dr. Fabella? Mostly, ito po. Si Ma'am. Wait lang po. Si Ma'am Emily. Do quali and quanti have the same parts of chapter 1, sir?
Opo, ang nawala lang po yung hypothesis. Yun lang po ang mawawala sa quali. So, wala po tayong hypothesis sa quali po. Pero more or less po, similar po yan. Again, it will depend on the school where you are studying po.
Pero sir, for instance, marami po bang instances talaga na, ito personal question ko lang, kasi na baka yung ibang tanong nila, hindi na nila nalalagay sa chat box. Tatanong ko na lang din kasi I'm a student myself. Sa amin kasi, walang chapter 1, walang chapter 2. As in, diretso siya na for journal publication type. Actually, yun yung prescribed format. Let us say, sir, sinabi ng prof na, sige, bahala kayo kung anong gusto niyong format. The one you shared with them today, is it possible na they can use that? Yung shinare nyo sa kanila?
Yeah, opo. Pwede naman po. Yeah, yung may mga schools po na hindi gumagamit ng chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 format kasi gusto nila ready for publication na po agad yung research niyo. IMRAD na po agad para pwede po i-submit. No, para hindi na po mahirapan yung mga researchers kasi yun po yung goal. May mga schools na gusto nila pinapublish talaga. Kaya yun po yung actually kung updated po kayo sa mga pronouncements ng CHED, no, starting next year, mga mag-enroll ng masteral, kailangan ma-publish internationally ang inyong mga thesis. Otherwise, hindi po gagraduate ng masteral. Yun po ang bagong CHED CMO. kaya yung mga nagma-masteral ngayon, nagmamadali kasi makaabutan sila nun. So, yun. Kaya,
Kasi,
opo.
usually, sir, talaga, naririnig ko rin. Tapos parang, yung mga professor yata ngayon, they gave blank authority to students to pick which format. So, mas maganda na at least, kung meron man dito na mag-uumpisa pa lang magsulat, and their professors advise you to frame your own format, I think the ones shared by Dr. Fabella with us can be of big help. Ayun. Sa akin kasi in my case, I'll just take 2 minutes of this story. When I took my masters, di ko pa tapos, I'm still in the middle of writing the thesis. Nung nasa proposal kasi ako, parang multiple times na hindi in-accept yung proposal kasi ayaw talaga, yung school na napili ko, ayaw nila ng language of education. Ayaw nila. Because I'm a language major. Pag sinabi mong language of education, automatically turn down kasi nga jump pack na daw masyado. So, actually, yung iba ang pinili language of the street. So, nung sinabi na anyone who would risk taking language of the court would definitely be assisted by the department. Tapos yung prof pa yung magiging co-author. So, sabi ko, it's a chance. So, para maging authentic yung thesis, nag-enroll ako sa law school para maintindihan ko talaga yung language of the court. So yun. So while I'm taking my Juris Doctor, binabalikan ko yung thesis ko kasi nga gusto kong maging authentic. And same procedure. Once na my professor volunteered that she will be co-authoring with me. Eh yung prof ko, siya yung editor-in-chief ng World Englishes. So, yun. So, kaya ako ngayon nababaliw kasi ano ba uunahin ko? Anyway, nai-inspire kasi ako dun sa kwento ni Dr. Fabella. Honestly, I've seen a lot of professors already teaching research. He's the best so far, considering na marami lang nakilala. I think he's the best so far. Kasi yung mahirap, aminin na natin, napapadali niya. Tama po ba? Bakit nung siya na yung nagturo? Mula nung research proposal namin, sumubok kami, sumugal. Ang estudyante ni Dr. Fabella, 13 lang. Tama, Doc? Yung first Sunday namin, 13 students lang ang estudyante ni Dr. Fabella. Sabi namin, tuloy natin, sir, kasi pag nalaman na nila how good are you, for sure, dadami yung estudyante natin. And nangyari nga, na nag-balloon yung students namin, ang daming regular students, they enrolled already every now and then, every Sunday, nandito sila, bumabalik. Kasi, the difference is, napakahirap na nga magsulat. Tapos yung teacher, pinapahirapan pa yung proseso. Ano bang goal mo? Makapagsulat yung estudyante mo? O hindi ka matapatan na maging master graduate? Ano ba yung goal talaga? So yun. So, but when I saw him teach, sabi ko, maybe he is the one who can make very hard lessons easy. Bakit pag siya, smooth lang. Pero pag yung mga professor natin, parang they're just like proud gods who was just forced to walk among mortals. Sorry. But I think those are the exact words. Quote me. So, but when I saw him teach from the very beginning, sabi ko, inangklakan ko na, sabi ko, Dr. Fabella, perpetuity, dito ka na sa amin magturo every Sunday. Unless fortuitous event na hindi ka pwedeng magturo. I-move namin, gagawin kami ng paraan. I think you agree with me. Tama po ba? Na yung mahirap, yun, thank you Ma'am Emily for the response at saka lahat po. Yung napakahirap, yung ayoko pa yung prof na, oh, ito yung parts. Master teacher, master student ka man. Sail your own boat. Correct. But the thing is, my God, I'm in point A. You wanted me to go to reach point B without me bridging from point A to point B. So what will I do? Will I cross the river with my bare hands? Provide me the boat. And that's your job. Correct? Parehas tayo na PRC license na nung papatay parehas sa PICC. Tapos di mo gagawin yung trabaho mo is because I'm already a master's student, PhD student. Teka lang. 'Di ba? But Dr. Fabella is very different. Kaya nga po yung talk niya, sabi ko, uto-utayin natin, sir, kasi pag minsanin mo, kaya-kaya na ituro ni sir yan, pero gusto ko sa namnamin bawat estudyante ni Dr. Fabella, bawat chapter. Sabi ko nga, after this talk, matapang na tayong haharap. Baka titigil na ako manood ng mga video sa TikTok. Baka, I can start already. Kasi meron na ako meron na akong, ganun pala yun. Kasi same thing din sa amin. Although yung prof ko, every day, every now and then, tinatanong niya ako na, okay lang tayo umpisa magsusulat. Siyempre ako, saglit lang. PhD graduate ka na, double PhD. Ako wala pa. So, unti-untiin natin. So ngayon, nung nag-start ako, proposal kay Dr. Pavella, nagtapang ako na nagsulat after his talk. Papa-edit ko sana kanya kasi nakakahiya. Sabi ko, saka na lang. Pero sana po today, yung mga tanong niyo masasagot ni Dr. Fabella for sure. He is really our pride. Ipamalita niyo po na meron kayo nahanap na center, na merong napakagaling na magturo ng research. Yung simple lang, alam mo yung chill lang, yung chill lecture. Pero sobrang
I agree po.
galing. Ayun, sabi niyo, ma'am, maraming salamat po. Maraming salamat. Sana
I
po
agree.
tapusin niyo yung series kasi malaking bagay.
Yeah.
Hindi na
I've
lang
been looking talaga, sir, for a resource person that can really enlighten my mind. Kasi I'm a teacher and I'm studying Juris Doctor and a lot of paperworks also. And then recently I
we
was
can
assigned
relate
as
each other.
recently I was assigned to become a research teacher. I don't know, the how to teach easily with the students, and then they understand the whole process. And in my school also, I don't know, I think every school they want to have a research team like that, and now you're assigned to that team and you don't know where to start, and then you watch different videos and then you don't know what videos are valid, and so it's like I've been searching over the Facebook and then I stumble upon this PSC.
Sabi nga nila
Okay.
ma'am ng Metrobank, now you're in good hands.
Kasi pang you understand talaga, you have to do the research, but you know where to start talaga, no? Ganun. Thank you po.
Ay, maraming salamat din po. Actually sa akin, nung una, business side. Sabi ko, sige, mag-engganyo tayo. Business side. Pero along the way, since I can feel you, we speak the same language. I'm actually taking the journey with you. So, parang mahirap talaga magsulat. At saka aminin na natin, ang dami mga research na nasa YouTube. 'Di ba? Marami. But you don't know who's the real one and who's the real deal. And I'm telling you, we have the real deal here at PSC with Dr. Fabella. So yun po, maraming salamat po sa lahat na nag-agree, nakaka-inspire. Balik po tayo sa totoong business. Baka marami na pa akong too much with the chika. Sabi niya, ito puro chika. Hindi na tayo napunta sa totoong pag-uusapan. Hindi po.
Question
Bumabalik
po.
po ako. Yes, ma'am.
Uh, Following what you were saying earlier, I can feel you. Yung dapat advisor should be student friendly and not, may mga kasi, and I think experience yan ng iba. Would it be possible ba in the future na, for example, I'll be given a advisor from our school, tapos I can somebody then on my personal initiative na magkumuha rin ng advisor so na can really monitor what I'm doing.
Ma'am, Dr. Fabella, I think you are, no?
Depende po yan ma'am dun sa school ninyo kung kasi they're very graduate schools kasi they're very possessive when it comes to advisories eh. Kaya pag kumuha ka na external advisor baka magtaasa ng kilay ng mga yan ano. You can actually just get a research consultant, someone who can help you, guide you. Sometimes I do that no, sa mga may mga yung
Yes.
nabanggit ko po kanina
But
may
opo.
nagdo-doctoral
But
that
do
tries
I
to
need
help
to
me.
disclose that to them? Kasi
Mm.
parang I can follow what you're ano no na alam mo na sa pagdating sa academe parang ganyan. Honestly, this is my second program na. I finished, nakatapos din ako ng previous thesis last time. But hindi ko siya na-feel na talagang dahil finalo ko lang ng finalo yung gusto nilang mangyari. Parang I don't have the flexibility to express something, 'di ba? Na parang dahil ito yung norm, ito yung dapat mo sundin, parang masyadong dahil hindi sinabi ng professor, ganon. Parang parang hindi, it's half owned, parang ganyan. Hindi masyadong, although sabihin na natin syempre mas alam nila what is proper. Pero parang yung gusto mo talagang hindi rin nila masyado na explain, parang ganun.
Thank you, ma'am.
Opo, yeah.
We can feel your sentiments.
Opo, parang minsan kasi denumero ang kilos paggawa ng mga research. Eto, gawin mo and then next and then next and then next, no? Parang wala ng flexibility. Depende po talaga yan sa academic institution kung ano po yung gusto nilang approach sa kanilang mga students. Kaya hindi natin pwedeng pakialaman eh. So, when I try to help students of other schools, no, ang ginagawa ko po talaga una is hingi po tayo ng copy ng kanilang format ng kanilang thesis para mapag-aralan po natin. Pamakita natin ano yung hinahanap nila kasi baka kailangan natin mag-adjust dun sa kanilang gusto. And mahalaga po yun kasi mahirap po i-impose ang format ng isang school sa ibang school kasi kanya-kanya po talaga yan. Kaya yun po ang una ko pong hinihingi dun sa mga tinutulungan ko po from other schools. No? Tingnan natin how your school does it and then pag-aralan natin then we'll see ano yung gusto nila. Yun po yung ma-share ko po sa inyo, ma'am.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Doc.
sir.
Wow. Sir, pasadahan ko na lang yung ibang tanong, no? Is theoretical framework, artificial framework, and theoretical background the same?
Yes po, nagbabago lang ng pangalan kaya yun nga po sabi natin, no, format changes, the name changes, no. Minsan nga may mga schools na apat lang ang chapters eh. Pinagsama yung chapter 1 and chapter 2. Kaya 4 chapters na lang. Kaya kanya-kanya po talagang diskarte yan, ma'am. We cannot really come up with a universal format. Sa iba-iba po talaga.
Thank you, Doc. Sabi ni Sir Gerard, si Professor Gerard, looking forward to the next webinar on Chapter 2. It was affirmative lecture. See you again next week, Sir Gerard. Pinaremind ko si Sir Gerard kasi siya sa mga regular student natin, Doc. Agyaman kami, Sir Gerard. Sabi po ni Miss May, what is the standard inclusions in Chapter 1? Feeling ko yung diniscuss nyo kanina, sir, no? Yung introduction, background of the study, and all. Ma'am May, since you're regular student, you can go back to the lecture once we send you the copy. Pero I think, yun na yun, no, Doc? Unless you go for quantitative or qualitative, magkakaroon na lang ng difference. Tama ba, Dr. Fabella?
Opo. Yeah, opo. Kaya yung mga diniscuss ko po, sobra po yon dun sa standard kasi para po ma-cover natin na baka kasi ibang schools, they require more. No? Baka magtaka kayo, bakit ganon? Mas maganda na sobra kaysa kulang eh. So tanggalin nyo na lang yung hindi kasama dun sa format ng school kung saan po kayo nag-aaral. Ano po, gaya po for example, purpose of the study, assumptions, minsan meron, minsan wala. So, tanggalin nyo na lang po yun kung wala po. Ang pinakamaganda po talaga is pag-aralan natin kung ano yung mga finished na thesis ng mga school kung saan po tayo enrolled or mag-enroll kung mag-enroll pa lang po kayo.
Thank you, Doc. Sabi ni Sir Melcher. Thank you, sir, for providing us the recorded presentation. Yes, sir. That makes us different. We provide everything to our students. Currently, I'm doing my research about assessment of literacy skills among JH junior high school students. Is this an example of qualitative or quantitative?
Nakamute ka, sir.
Nakamute ka, Doc.
Ayun, okay. So, ang gusto nyo po pag-aralan ay, ano po yun?
Assessment of literary skills daw, Doc. Is this quali or quanti?
It sounds quanti. It sounds quanti, no? Pero, literary skills. Problema po kasi sa literary skills, no? Subjective po atang grading dyan, ano? It's subjective kasi ano, parang creative writing yan eh. And that becomes, yeah, pwede pa rin quanti basta gagamit ka po ng mga rubrics, no? Siyempre yung mga English teachers dyan, you are more an expert in that field, no? How you grade, no? Mga compositions po. Kaya kayo po nakakaalam kung ano po yung pag-aaralan ninyo. Ay, ano po yung susukatin ninyo doon sa sinulat po ng mga students. Yeah, it can be quanti po.
Thank you, Doc. Sabi ni Ma'am Rachel, returning student, agree daw sa sinabi ko. Sabi ni Ma'am Mary Jane, exactly, Sir Mark. Wow, Ma'am Valerie, thank you for commanding our center. Inspiring. Oh, sabi ni Sir Ronel. Thank you, Sir Ronel. I agree with Sir Mark. Parang dali lang ng research pag si Doc Fabella nag-i-explain. Yes.
Ay, correct ko lang po, no? Sabi po pala ni Ma'am May, literacy pala, akala ko literature. What we mean
Literacy
by
pa.
literacy is about being able to read and write. Tama po ba, Ma'am May? Yeah, that's really quanti po talaga yon. Kasi you're going to assess whether a person can read and write. So, literacy. Ang rinig ko po kasi literature.
Assessment
Opo.
of literacy skills. Yan.
Yan, opo.
Thank you po. Sabi ni Miss Christine yata, tapos si Ma'am Christine. Yes po, he makes everything light to understand. Sabi ni Ma'am Aura, yes, that's why I registered again. Nice to see you back, Ma'am Aura. And si Sir Gerard, again, commenting, reigniting my interest in thesis writing. So may reignition pala, sir. Ayan. So si Sir Ross, Christian, babalik daw next week. Hindi po heavy, yes. Sabi ni Ma'am Shannon, I agree, Sir Mark, I'm blessed to be part of this workshop. Wow, thank you, Ma'am Shannon. Go Oste. May question na po si Ma'am Shannon. I have question po. In writing the research questions po, how will I formulate or construct my research questions po in a mixed method design? Specifically, explanatory sequential design po. Thank you so much.
Wow. So again, ano, pag ganito po yung mga tanong, medyo mahirap i-imagine kasi it's just one sentence. Parang may nagtatanong yata last time, ano yung tamang statistical tool na gagamitin niya. Hindi ko ma-imagine yung kanyang mga data. Kaya nahirapan po akong challenge po sa akin sagutin yung kanyang katanungan. So, mixed method design po, ginagamit po natin yan if you want to confirm or triangulate or verify the results of one method. So, kung halimbawa you have two methods and you want to verify whether one method yields a particular result, no, you use the other method. For example po, you want a questionnaire type, papasagot po kayo ng self-report questionnaire na gawa ninyo about, for example, kunwari lang, very basic lang, anxiety. Kunwari, ibahin natin, anxiety during pandemic. So, nagpasagot po kayo ng questionnaire. So, that's your quanti. That will yield a result, a numerical result. Pero you want to verify kung yung results nga ba ng iyong quantitative approach ay totoo. So, what you do is this. You interview them then. No? Hindi lahat. Pili ka lang ng ilan. Hindi, interview lang din and hanapin mo yung teams. Tama ba yung lumabas pa doon sa quanti is supported by the interviews. That's why I use mixed method to verify each other. Ano po? Ganun po yung ginagawa po. Kaya po tayo gumagamit ng mixed method. And meron po tayong webinar that we will be holding about research instrument, di ba, Sir Mark?
Yes,
How to-
sir.
Yeah, I think mas maganda doon po, no? Malalaman po natin ano po yung dapat i-consider when we are already producing our research instrument pag researcher made. Ayan.
After po ng quantitative and qualitative, we'll have a researcher-made, the basics of researcher-made instruments.
Opo, kasi mas angkop yung tanong ni Ma'am Shannon dun sa webinar na yon, no? Dito makikita natin yung mga principles involved. Kasi baka malunod kayo, no? Principles involved, mga validity and reliability. Kailangan may basics mo muna tayo dyan.
Thank you, Doc. Balikan ko pa lang po yung tanong ni Ma'am Mary Jane. Doc Fabella, how can I narrow down my research proposal about the impact of pandemic in teaching?
Ayan, okay. So that's one of the common problems ng ng magre-research. What do you mean by impact? Ano po yung gusto niyo pag-aralan? Is it a impact on functionality of the teacher? Is it impact on the emotions of the teacher? Is it impact on other aspects ng buhay ng teacher? No, yun po yung ina-narrow down natin gaya po ng process natin kanina of identifying and defining the variables. No, kasi when you say impact, pwede rin po natin gamitan ng quali yan. No? If you want to conduct interviews lang, how would you describe your experiences during the pandemic as a teacher? Yeah. So, pwede po siya maging quali, pwede rin po siya maging quanti. Kung ina-narrow down po natin yung impact to a particular variable, no? We can make it quanti. Pero if it's in general, we can make it qualitative po. So, depende po sa inyo yun. No? We don't have to narrow it down kung quali eh. Pero kung quanti po, narrow it down po natin. Ano po yung gusto yung pag-aralang impact? Performance po ba? Emotions, mental state, mental health. Yan. How she deals with the work-life balance. Ang dami po eh. Dami po pwedeng pag-aralan. No? Research na napaka-broad po ng mga topics na pwede nating i-consider.
Thank you, Doc. Just go through all this. Sabi ni Ma'am Mary Jane, that's what I need, the tapang to write. Ngayon, ma'am, matapang na tayong magsalat. And sabi ni Ma'am Virginia, that's the reason why I keep coming back, sir. Thank you, Doc. Thank you rin po. And thank you so much. Ayan po. Thank you, Doc. Abang ko lang po yung session na na-mention. Koste, Ma'am Shannon. All right. I think that ends our session for today. Please allow me also to give you a rundown of our future sessions. You might have a co-teacher who is handling your school paper. We are inviting them to attend our intensive training for school paper advisors that would begin on Tuesday next week. Every Tuesday, Thursday. That would be 4 days. Tuesday, Thursday in succession. 4 to 6 p.m. And then after the training, it will be press conference. Parang friendly competition. So baka may kilala po kayong mga school paper advisors na co-teacher nyo, you can recommend the program. I'll be part of the training pool. I might be discussing editorial. Next, besides our training for school paper advisors, the continuity of our Sunday habit next week would be chapter 2, compiling review of related literature. We'll be sending you registration link. Kahit po nag-register na kayo ngayon, you still register para makita po namin kung sino mga estudyante namin every Sunday. Kasi po once na nag-complete nyo yung series hanggang sa writing research article, bibigyan po namin kayo ng isang certificate accumulating all the days that you attended para makredit for promotion purposes. Ayan. Kasi alam ko hindi sapat pag isang araw lang. Dapat minimum 3 days. So you started with chapter 1, very good. And then you continue with chapter 2, back-to-back quanti, quali. And then research made, instruments, tapos dulo po natin, writing research article for publication purposes. And then once you completed all those, we'll be giving you a special certificate indicating all the days, accumulating all the number of hours. Ayun po. Kaya mahalaga po na mag-register kayo every Sunday para matrack down po namin. Besides chapter 2, by next week, we also have our very first review here at Powerhouse, which is Chemistry for NMAT. Yeah. So yung mga, kung may kakilala kayo na mag-exam for NMAT, that's National Medical Achievement Test, mga magdodoktor, you can actually refer to them, our center. So I think that ends our lecture for today. Can we give po a round of applause to Dr. Fabella? Ayan. Ayan. Hey, DJ, pwede na.
Thank you so much.
Thank you po. Yan po. Sir DJ, pwedeng patanggal na yung presentation para may photo op tayo. Yan. Ma'am Valerie, welcome to the center. Maraming salamat. Ayan. And also, we are happy today kasi nakabalik na yung aming education technology specialist. So dati, if mag-isa lang ako, dalawa lang kami. Ngayon, buo na. So PSC is now again in full circle. He is well and healthy. So welcome back, Engineer Danny J. Yan. So mag-picture daw po muna tayo for posting purposes. 1, 2, 3. Smile. And thank you so much po. Again, another achievement has been fulfilled today. On behalf of Powerhouse Scholastic Center, to all the board of directors, to our in-house lecturer, Dr. Fabella, to our regular students, and to our new students, this has been Sir Mark, signing off. Happy Sunday and Happy Mother's Day, everyone. Next week po, Ma'am Cathy, we'll just post, we will just send you invitation, special invitation to our students. Happy Sunday, everyone, and keep safe. Thank you.
Thank you po. Bye.
Thank you, sir.
Bye.
Thank you so much.
We'll see you next week po.
Thank you.
Thank you po.
Thank you. Bye po. Thank
Bye
you.
po. Thank you, Ma'am Val. Thank you. See you next week.
Sige sir, kain muna. Kakain muna tayo.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sige, sir.